Hey everyone, Micah here with EbikeSchool.com, and today I am unboxing my new electric boat. Now just a refresher, in case you didn't see my last video, which I'll link up here, I bought this boat from Alibaba. I found a vendor online. I worked with them a little bit to have it made the way I wanted it, had it shipped over to Miami Port. From there, it was trucked over to my parents' place here in Florida. It's better here because my dad has a garage and a pond and basically all the things I don't have to be able to make this work. So we're gonna do the unboxing now and we'll see what I got here. Now, as you can see, it came in this giant crate here. I'm actually quite impressed with what good quality the crate is in. If you remember my mini truck, when that came, it came in this cage that was all beaten up. So I'm really pleasantly surprised here. And so I imagine the boat should be in good condition, knock on wood. So let's get uncrating this thing and see what I bought. Time for a boat unboxing. I'm kind of hoping the bow's at the other end so it'll be easier to get on the trailer and get out, but I guess we'll find out in a minute. Here's our first look. Good news is the bow is pointed in the right direction, so that'll make the job easier. What is this? Did they give me life jackets? That's funny. Probably a good idea too. I don't know, if you guys saw, this boat only cost $1,000, so I think having some life jackets, not a bad idea.
From that point, it was all hands on deck for unscrewing, which meant my dad and I backing out a few hundred self-tapping sheet metal screws. During that process, we found there were even more life jackets in there, with 5 total, and they were pretty nice life jackets too, not cheap compliance ones.
Yeah, there's the prop. Oh, that prop looks really bad. Welded up too. Oh yeah, you need a build pump on this thing.
Yeah, I got one coming from Amazon. This doesn't look like a quality propeller.
Well, I've seen a lot of propellers. You give me your opinion.
I wouldn't put that in my top 5.
From here it was even more plywood unscrewing, and you can start to see here just how well this cage is made, with what seems like 2-inch galvanized steel square tubing, and of course that plywood is certainly not going to waste either. There's probably a couple $100 worth of plywood coming off this thing, not to mention all the steel tubing and hardware you can salvage too.
Alright, so we got most of the plywood off, and I can already tell that the cage is actually very nicely constructed here. There's like the basic superstructure, right? But they've also got other members in here that are right above the boat to keep it from bouncing around. And it's actually quite nicely welded. At this point, I think the next step is going to be cutting this cage apart. And then hopefully we can just slide the whole boat out the side here, because I'm not quite sure another way to get it out.
Just for those who are curious, when it was put in at the factory in China, they used a gantry crane, and since that's one tool we don't have here, slipping out the side door seems like the next best way to do it. Cutting off the protective plastic gave us our first real look at the boat, and then we used a piece of plywood from the crate to cover up the jagged parts at the bottom of the cage so we wouldn't mess up the pristine fiberglass job as we slipped the boat out. It was quite wedged in there since those top braces were likely welded in after the boat was put in the cage, so after trying to slip it out, we figured that we had to gingerly slide out the canopy first. Getting the boat out was a lot of back and forth wiggling since it weighs around 400 pounds and isn't the easiest thing to just pick up. Also, the rudder shaft is the lowest point on the boat, so we had to be careful to keep the stern elevated so it wouldn't catch the rudder on the floor. After sliding off the canopy support and looking inside the hole, we found another surprise.
What is that?
There's more life jackets? Oh, they're kid life jackets. 5 kid life jackets.
You always hear about YouTubers getting free stuff. Well, here you go. Now this was really my first chance to look inside, and while the boat itself actually seems pretty nice, minus a few fiberglass imperfections, the guts inside the hole seem a bit, rather thrown together. It's got a 750 watt controller, though it's barely bolted on there, and then there's a 500 watt motor which seems way too big to only be 500 watts. If anything, the steering assembly here looks to be the most rugged thing in there. You notice there are no batteries in there yet. I'll be adding those myself in just a couple minutes.
Okay, so the good news is the boat is out of the cage now. That was not an easy process. It was a lot of sliding and shimmying. Considering the tools and the space we had available, I think it worked pretty well. Next, I've got to work on this trailer for the boat. So my dad found an awesome trailer. It was used on Craigslist. Got it for, I think it was 400 bucks, so pretty good deal, I think. The only problem is it's set up for a small V-hull boat. So it's got these little bunks on it. We're gonna swap those for wider bunks. The boat has a very odd bottom to it. It's got sort of two sponsons plus a central one in a weird way. But those two big sponsons, they're really wide. So we're gonna make two wide new bunks so it'll slide up on top of those. Gotta head to the hardware store, get some lumber for that. I think I'm gonna use a set of 2x10s on either side there, pressure treated lumber. And then we'll probably have to make some side rails for that as well. So I'll get some 2x8s for that, or maybe 2x6, doesn't need to be too big. Some outdoor carpet, and then just gotta modify that trailer and tie it all together in a way that makes it so it's gonna be safe and support this sort of odd structure of the boat so that we don't do any damage to it while trailering it. Okay, trailer is done. Now is the even trickier process of getting the boat onto the trailer. We don't have any way to lift the boat up, so we're using a super shady method of just stacking it up on blocks of wood that we have laying around. Fortunately, my dad has a pile of stuff in the garage here, so we're just sort of going one side at a time, lifting the boat up, sliding more wood in, so we can get it up to the level of the trailer. Because this boat, it weighs something like 400 to 500 pounds, not entirely sure. We've had conflicting reports from the manufacturer, but it's a lot of boat to just try and pick up and shove up there. So we got to get it close to the height of the trailer. At that point, it becomes a sort of dangerous game of, is it high enough and can we slide the trailer under it without tipping over the posts of wood that we've made under it. I think that we're going to be able to get this on the trailer without this thing coming crashing down. Okay, so we were able to push, shove, and cajole the boat onto the trailer there. I'm gonna call that a success. However, it ran into another snag. While I was pumping up one of the tires on the trailer, I made a stupid mistake and I just bent the valve a little too far and I broke the rubber at the seat of the valve stem there. So now we gotta go fix that tire and then we can get it back on, and then I can start working on the interior of the boat, which that means I gotta set up the batteries and I gotta install the canopy so we can get this thing ready for the water. Battery time, very exciting. I got these big old batteries from EnjoyBot. These are 12 volt, 200 amp hour batteries. It's more than I need. They told me that I would need 100 amp hours, but I wanted to just double it so I would never have to worry about range. And basically I know I've always got more than I need. It's a 24 volt boat, so that means I'm gonna have to put these two batteries in series. It's actually gonna wind up about 25 volts, a little higher because these are 12.8 volt batteries. And these are lithium iron phosphate, which is nice because they are gonna last a lot longer than lead acid batteries. They're gonna carry their charge longer. They're lighter. They're just, every part of this is better than lead acid batteries. Let's get one of these bad boys out. Oh my God, these are huge. Look at these things. So each one of these weighs about 50 pounds by itself. Nice thing is they have handles here. Oh, to lift them out. Ooh, that is nice. So there we go. Oh yeah, look at that bad boy. All right, so there, what did I say? Lithium iron phosphate, 12 volts, 200 amp hours. This is gonna get me about 5,000 watt hours of capacity, 5 kilowatt hours, and that's way more than that boat needs, but it's gonna make it awesome because I can basically go all day and not even worry about it. If we do the math real quick, 5,000 watt hours, it's a 500 watt motor. It really pulls about 750 watts at peak. So even going full power, you would probably get like 6-7 hours out of this, which, like, I don't know if I want to be sitting on that tiny boat for more than 6 or 7 hours. So I think these are going to be plenty. All right, now time to get these over to the boat, get them in that hole, and wire them together in series. Let's do it.
From here, wiring these two 12 volt batteries in series was pretty much dead simple. The The positive terminal from one battery goes to the negative terminal of the other. That makes these two 12-volt packs into a 24-volt pack, and then you just wire that into the positive and negative of the boat using the leads that were already provided.
Now it's time, I think, to strap those batteries in so they're not going to be moving around too much, and I'm going to start installing the canopy here. So we got the rest of the boat together yesterday evening. We were racing against the light to get it finished, so we didn't get the boat in the water. We saved that for this morning. You could probably see in the video just how we were losing the light at the end of the day there. So I'm going to tow it in with the van here. I actually really wanted to do this with my electric mini truck, but I haven't had time to put a hitch on it yet. It's in the list of upgrades I'm working on. I already got the 2-inch hitch receiver, so hopefully the next video of this boat is going to have me towing it with my little electric mini truck. For now, we're going to pull it back here. Now for the first test, we're going to put it in the pond on my parents' property here. It's about a 1-acre pond, so it's going to be a good place to test it out first. Don't really want to get it out in like a local canal or river before we really know that this thing is going to be watertight and safe to take out there. So I'm going to start somewhere a little bit closer to home here. Now we don't actually have a dock or a boat ramp in the pond yet. Weren't really expecting to put something this big in there. Mostly been using it for kayaks. So we're going to just try and lower it down the bank. And also I got an inflatable dock in the meantime, so we'll have somewhere to tie the boat off and get on and off a little bit easier. This is the Dock 10 from Boats, so thank you to those guys for sending that out for me to test here. I'm gonna get that thing inflated and see how that works. This box weighs like 98 pounds, by the way. Now I noticed they had an electric pump on the boat site. Fortunately, I didn't think to get the electric pump, so this is going to be a manual inflation. Valve pin up to inflate. Pin up. All right, see you guys in hopefully less than 10 minutes.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to put this boat in the water and see if it floats. Since we haven't really carved in a boat ramp yet, we basically just white-knuckled it down the wet and slippery grass bank, hoping we could get the boat buoyant before the van went for a swim. And lo and behold, the boat did manage to slip right off the back, almost like it was going according to plan. The dock is surprisingly rigid and it feels like a real wooden dock, and so it was great for tying up the boat and letting me get on for a quick check under the rear bench to make sure we weren't taking on water.
Dry so far.
With everything looking good so far, it was time for her maiden voyage.
I'm gonna go backwards here.
The boat seemed to be working quite well, though you can see it's listing a bit with a single passenger's weight off on one side. It also steered like a barge and was louder than I expected. Part of both of those problems is that the top of the propeller is actually above the waterline when you're alone in the boat and don't have much weight in the back. My dad hopped aboard and we tested it out with more weight in the rear, which definitely seemed to lower the prop into the water more, reduce the prop noise, and it seemed to even steer better too. I definitely think I'll want to move the 100 pounds of battery weight farther back for better weight balance.
Got more propeller in the water.
After a bit, I let my dad take the helm. He's an oceanographer and has spent more years on boats than I've been alive, so I figured I could trust him with the controls.
expected. You could say it exceeded expectations.
Well, when you set your expectations very low. I'll start setting up warnings.
So once you get to this bank, turn around and do a speed run back. I'm gonna try and get a speed on my phone speedometer.
Speed run.
And I'm putting the phone speedometer in knots. The reverse steering doesn't seem very good.
It's slightly worse than the forward steering.
It needs bow thrusters.
Yeah, well, we can install those.
Imagine a trolling motor up front. It'd be bigger than the motor in back.
Alright. Let's see what this thing can do. Hold on.
There, full steam ahead.
We're going into a nose wind here. This is putting on our speed. We're going to have to go in the opposite direction. Oh, this would not be safe in the river, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get swept right out. There is no freaking way.
I might have to do a motor swap before we take it up there. Okay, we're at 2 knots.
You got ripples on the water.
Or white caps out there. We didn't surpass 2 knots on that one.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're going to get 3 on the way back.
It was around this point where I failed to manage my drone battery and nearly had a wet landing.
So I had to emergency land the drone in the cow pasture.
Fortunately, we were already in a boat, so it was easy to go grab it and make use of that front entry for a beach landing.
You know what a cow patty looks like? Push off.
You know, for the first outing and for $1,000, I'd say I'm pleasantly surprised with this little boat. Of course, then you should ask my dad what he thinks too.
This thing is completely ridiculous.
All right, so I've been boating around for a while now, and I realize I haven't even given you guys a tour of the boat yet. So how about I bring you in here and let's take a look at what we've got here. All right, welcome aboard. So this is my steering wheel here. I like this little schooner they've got on, as if I'm going to be sailing this thing. Over here we've got our on-off button. Now we're on, and you can see the lights turn on. I assume this is a battery gauge, though occasionally some of these LEDs are not on. So I'm not sure if this is just a continuous sort of imitation of a needle gauge or what's going on with some of these lights. And it's in Chinese, so I can't actually read it. If anyone can tell me what this Chinese says, that would be super awesome. Down here I've got my throttle. It's not a variable throttle in that it's either on or off, or rather forwards, reverse, or off. So if I go up, I've got my forwards. down's reverse. Over here, this is a charge port, and they gave me a connector for this, which is nice. I've heard some people tell me this is a 220 outlet, and here it says it's rated for 250 volt, 16 amp. So it's kind of weird that they would put this as a DC charge connector, but I guess it's a big waterproof socket, so it'll work for me. See, there's not a lot else to show inside of the boat here. It's a 5-seater, so we've got 2 seats here. Both of these actually have this little scupper thing, which is nice, so that you don't get rainwater pooling in the seat. And then we've got our 3 seats in the back, sort of a diminutive little middle seat. And under there is where you've seen all of the guts of the boat, the motor, the controller, the batteries I put in there. There are a few things that aren't super nice here. If you look at the inside of these rear pillars, this is just the unfinished fiberglass. And then same thing for the canopy up here. The inside is just the raw fiberglass. There's no gel coat or anything on top of that. So not the highest finishing quality there, but at the same time, you know, $1,000 boat here, folks. Now, I gotta say, I'm not sure quite what I was expecting here, but I think the boat exceeded my expectations. For what you pay for this thing, I think you actually get a lot. Now, there are some things that are left to be desired here. The fiberglass isn't great, you know, there's some imperfections, there's some areas where the thickness is different, there were places where they patched up the paint and there's like overspray on the taff rails. A lot of that can be cleaned off, but you know, the quality isn't the highest here, but remember, this is a $1,000 mail order boat, so it's hard for me to complain too much about some of those fit and finish things. Now, the big kicker here is that the power is just so low, all right? This is not a riverboat by any stretch of the imagination. My goal was to first put it in this little lake on my parents' place here, make sure that it actually floats, that it's safe, everything works, and then take it out to a local small river and have some fun around there. At this point, I don't think it would even be safe to try that. I don't think it's gonna be able to go against that current. And if you've got some wind on a windy day, I don't think there's enough power in this motor. So this is definitely a lake boat. You know, if you've got an electric-only lake in your area, I know there are a lot of people that live on these electric-only lakes now so that they don't have polluting gas boats out there. This would be a great boat for that, but you would run into trouble if you tried to take this into a larger body of water, or especially something that had running water like a river or even a powerful stream. That being said, for what it's designed for, I think it's working great out here. I mean, the steering at slow speed is really not so great. You've really got to be going at, you know, top speed to get enough water moving over the rudder that you can really turn. When you are moving at full speed, though, it seems to turn pretty tightly. It's just, you know, you got to be moving fast enough to make those controls work. There are a few things that really surprised me with how nice this thing is. I mean, the floor here is nicely rubberized. It's got this scupper in the middle, so if you've got rainwater or condensation or splashing, it's all going to drain down beneath the boat. It's not going to sit in the hole here, so it's, you know, self-bailing in that sense. It also arrived in really great condition. You know, there wasn't any shipping damage. I think there was maybe one little spot where there's a rub mark on the bow somewhere, but you know, you can just kind of buff that out. So really impressed that it made a trip halfway around the world in such good condition. There are some major upgrades that I want to do to this boat. For one thing, there is no storage on here, none at all. So it'd be nice to be able to have a little bit of storage just so you can keep some line in here. I don't know, a first aid kit, some lights, some tools, that sort of thing. So I think in the front here somewhere I'm gonna put a hatch into the fiberglass and use some of that hollow space to be able to create a little storage compartment in there, because it seems like a waste to have all that hollow space without anywhere to put anything. I'm definitely gonna put solar panels on this as well. I mean, for an electric boat with a canopy, that's a no-brainer, right? Now there's so much battery in here, I wouldn't have to charge it often without solar panels. You know, this will run 6-7 hours at full speed. But if I have solar panels, that means I never need to plug it in. It's just always going to be fully charged. So that's absolutely going to be coming up, because I think that's going to be a huge addition to this. Now, one thing I don't have for the boat yet is a name. I've been kicking around a few different names. One of the ones I was liking was Current Affair. I had a great suggestion from one of my subscribers that was Sunny Side Up, especially when this is solar. I think that would be kind of cool. Plus it's yellow. My mom suggested the SS Quack Quack because she thinks it looks like a duck. So I would be happy to hear from you guys. Let me know if you have a good suggestion for a name for this boat. I got to choose one. And if you have a cool suggestion in the comment below and I choose your name, I'll send you one of my books for free. So let me know if you have any suggestions for boat names. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people are going to be wondering is how much did this boat cost total? Like all in, what did I pay? All right, so the boat itself was actually more than $1,000. It was $1,080. Next though, the actual largest charge out of all this was the shipping. So I had to have it freighted from China, and that was around $2,000. And this was back several months ago when I paid this, and shipping was still super high. So I was checking with freight companies for months and months. I had quotes of over $3,000, and it was starting to drop. It got down to $2,500. Once it got down to $2,000, I was like, all right, screw it. It's twice the cost of the boat, but I gotta get this thing here. I wanna try this out, so I bit the bullet. I probably should have waited, because since then, the price of freight from China has just plummeted. So now this would be much cheaper. I gotta check again what the freight is, but it's probably gonna be something like, I don't know, $1,000, maybe $1,500, perhaps even less. The next cost was the batteries, so I put in way more battery than I need. What you really need is 24 volt, 100 amp hour batteries. You can get that for below $500. I went with nicer batteries, those Enjoy bots, so that would have been about $600 if you use those nicer EnjoyBot lithium iron phosphate batteries. But I doubled that up for 200 amp hours at 24 volts, so that's about $1,200 or so worth of batteries there. Probably more than I needed. I was originally planning on taking this thing out into the river, but now that I know that it's probably a better lake boat until I upgrade the motor, I think that it's definitely more battery than you need for a cute little lake like this. The next big upgrade I want to do is I'd love to see how much more power I can get out of this. If I can swap out that motor to something a lot more powerful than 500 watts, then this might actually be a boat that could handle some, you know, easy river cruising. Again, nothing crazy. If I could get maybe 2,000 watts of power here, that might be something. So I'm gonna look into swapping out that motor, and I think it should be pretty easy because you see the way the motor's mounted there. I mean, you could swap anything in there and just use the existing belt drive. Definitely need to upgrade that propeller though. If you remember what that propeller looked like, that thing was shady. It's just like 1/8" steel welded onto a sort of propeller shaft, I guess, which is probably just a piece of pipe. It's not even beveled at the front end, so you've just got that 1/8" flat surface there just smacking into the water, and the propeller sticking into the air back there. I mean, something like, I don't know, 20% of it's actually sticking up out of the water, so I'm just, you know, spraying around, obviously sucking a lot of air down there, and so not a great setup. Perhaps if I push those batteries way further back, I can get the weight such that the whole propeller's in there. We'll see what we can do there to get a bit better balance in the water. Now, would I recommend somebody else buy one of these boats? It's quite an ordeal. You know, you got to be a little bit brave going into this. I had communicated with Frank from the factory a bunch. If you guys saw that video where I video chatted with them, I felt pretty confident that I wasn't going to get screwed just buying something weird like this on Alibaba. And of course, I've bought a few other things like my electric mini truck. So, you know, I've been through that process before, but there was just so much that went into this. There was buying it, there was wiring the money, there was waiting months for it to arrive, there was trucking it from the port to the property here, getting that giant crate off of the truck, getting it out of the crate, sliding the boat out, getting it up to the height of the trailer, making the trailer work for it, and then finally getting it into the water here. So there were a lot of things that had to happen and had to go right. Unfortunately, they all did, but this could have ended in a number of different ways. So consider just how complicated something like this is. If you're thinking about actually ordering something like this from China, it's not as easy and romantic as it might sound when you see these online or from some YouTube video of some annoying guy talking at you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video of me getting my new electric boat. I hope it was interesting and useful if you're looking for something like this. Last but not least, before we go, it is time to announce the randomly selected commenter from the last video who's going to win a free copy of one of my books. And the winner is...
Just in time.
So congratulations. Just let me know which one of my books you'd like. You can choose from DIY Lithium Batteries, DIY Solar Power, the Ultimate Do-It-Yourself E-Bike Guide, or my latest book, The Electric Bike Manifesto. Anybody else who wants a chance to win one of my books for free, all you have to do is put a comment down below. You can say anything you'd like, and hopefully you'll be the randomly selected commenter at the end of my next video. If you don't want to wait that long, you can always find my books on Amazon. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you here next time.